What's happening, boys and girls? This is Don, and this is the Weekender Bag, a pattern that you can download on Etsy from MPR Leatherworks. He has many other patterns that you could also download. Link will be in the description. Check this out. I'm going to run you through it. This is my experience. This is me printing off the pattern. And so after you print it off and you tape it all together, this is where you pick up. What's up, guys? Thank you for watching my video on my channel. This is kind of like my introduction video. My name is Don Ray J, and I own Leather and Stitch Customs, and I make leather better. And that's pretty much my motto. I take a side or shoulder of leather and I turn it into a project. And over the years that I've been doing this, I started this about 10 years ago, where I would work on little side projects like wallets and jewelry like bracelets and wristwatch bands and stuff like that. And I did that on the side, work my normal 9-to-5 W-2 job just like everyone else, and needed insurance and blah, 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 yeah, whatever. And then last year, I got back into doing leather kind of more often than I used to. And I found other channels out there where they produce patterns that you can pay for from, buy from their website or from their Etsy shop, and you can print that pattern off and then create wonderful works of art out of their patterns. And some of them have videos, but a lot of them do not. Some of them, like Tony C from Diesel Pump, he's great. He puts together instructional videos to show you how to put things together. Same thing with the Creative Owl, Leather Hub, and a couple others. But there's quite a few of them out there where they do not have videos put together to help you follow a guideline to put that product together. In the first one, I apologize because this first one is not for novices. If you've only done like 1 or 2 crafts, you haven't done anything mid-size or large size yet in scale and put together, this is probably not one you want to start with. Mainly because when I started filming this video, I've already done a lot of the setup work, and so you'll want to watch another video on how, like one of those other guys I mentioned earlier, on how they tell you how to print it off, tape it down, and all that kind of stuff. You can see here with this pattern, with the Weekender bag that this video is about, I've already done all that. I've already punched out the leather, the holes and everything. And so I'm able to use this template of this pattern for the next time I want to make one. So just to get that out of the way within the first couple of minutes here, this is not for novices. But if you want to follow along with this and watch the whole video throughout and see what I do from here and what leather I chose and so on and so forth, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to do this in the future with other projects where you don't have a video tutorial for the leather work, and I will put together that thing from the beginning all the way to the end with the time lapse to help speed things up for things that you already know about or whatever. So this is the Weekender bag, and what I've decided to do is, going forward, I also want to point, if there are any flaws in a pattern, which this one has one that I know of, then I'm the one that's making a mistake, so I get to find that out for you. That way you don't have to make the same mistake when you go to put together the project. And I'll get to that here in a bit. But you can see here, this is a large piece of paper. This is 9 sheets of paper in total. I end up having to tape all together after being printed. You have the upper piping sections here. Now on the pattern, there's only one of these, and I'll show you here. So this is first page of the printout, and then there's a part summary, like a diagram of all the parts. Now this one here, this is where the mistake is at. There's only one of these on this sheet. That's not a mistake. It would be nice if he said to print 2, but that's forgiven. Everything else is all here for you as far as what you need to look for as far as your supply goes. But you do need two of these. All right, just to clarify, there are two of these on the actual pattern itself. And the mistake is on the buckle side where the maker's mark is going to go, which I'm going to show you when I pull out my project. Some of these holes don't need to be punched out. There's about 8 holes that do not need to be punched out. They don't supply any type of rigidity to the bag or anything like that. But I made the mistake. Now you guys don't have to, and I'll show you on my project where you can make that change. Now the part summary, and then there's a list here of all the parts as far as the pages go in the diagram. Assembly for the copper piping that you're going to need for this project, little tools, wax thread, copper rivets, so on and so forth that you need. Hole punch. You want top grain leather. Now this is very important for this project as well because you need support for the bag. And when it comes to top grain, so I have this little measurer here for leather, and it tells you your ounce, how many ounces that leather is. And so it'll go here from 2 to 4 to 6. And what you do is you just slide the leather in between here, and wherever it stops comfortably, like this paper is not going to do it, but let me grab something here. So if I take this sling bag that I made out of a water buck, and I can take the strap, shoulder strap, and this comes in at about 5 ounces. And so, I was going to mention this too earlier. Everything that you see on my channel, this is something that's going to stand, that's going to be different on my channel than versus other leather channels. Anything that you see on my channel that I make, this is a design by Tony C from Diesel Pump. Sling bag, I put a pocket on the inside of it as well. Any designs that you see me make here are for sale. So once I get done with a project, I post it online for sale. And then if that particular project sells, if that product sells, I will allow someone to either I can make that exact same one again and sell it to them, or I can customize it so you can choose your color leather, quality of leather, you can choose the stitching, the aesthetics, what color you want the rivets and buckles to be, all that kind of stuff. And I will custom make you one, but you have to give me anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to complete it, of course, just because I do have other orders that will be in the pipeline that I need to complete. There's that one. Here is a ladies' purse backpack that I made out of Kodiak leather. One of my favorite leathers is Kodiak leather. It's great for backpacks. It's a nice 5-ounce leather as well. And I have some veg tan in here too, stuff that I dyed. And it's a main compartment with the front pocket as well. And then here is a small ladies purse. And I don't have everything online at the moment now. And I can make this in 2 sizes. Tony's pattern comes with 2 different sizes for this. Single class, just something simple. I can make this in about 6 hours as long as I don't have to dye the leather. If it's vegetable tan and I have to dye it, it takes a little longer. But if I can just cut it, this is a turquoise Italian, along with the water buck again that I use for the strap and some of the accents. And then I have a few other ones. This was a free pattern from Diesel Punk as well. Little bird mask. But onto this project, I apologize. The type of leather that you choose for this particular project is gonna matter. And so I didn't go with a thick vegetable tan like it's suggested. She suggested in the preliminary here, but I went with a high grain, and that's what he also suggests, is using a high grain, and I'm gonna show you why that matters. So I have a few leathers here to choose from. This is a quarter of the leathers that I do have. So first up, this is an Italian leather as well. This comes in at about 2.5 ounces, 2.5. This is a high grain leather, but it is super lightweight. And when you build this bag out, you have side panels. You have 2 of these that fold in, The bag is going to be completely, you can use this if you want a really lightweight bag like that, that you want to be flimsy, but I wouldn't suggest it. I would use something like this beautiful Italian leather I just showed you a while ago, where it has a little more firmness to it. This is about 3 ounces. It's a high grain leather, and it's not as flimsy. See, there's less leather here in this roll than there was in that previous Italian roll. It's half the size, but it's not as flimsy. I would use something like this, but I don't have enough of this. So another thing I was going to point out is, if you don't already have leather in mind or leather in stock that you're going to use for this project, I suggest printing out all the pieces, taping them all together. These holes are only punched because I've already punched out my project, which I'm going to show you in a bit, the leather that I chose. And then see if you have enough leather for this entire project. So this is the best way to do that. Tape it all together, tape all the pieces. If you don't know how to measure square footage, you know, at an angle or whatnot, this is the best way to cover your ground to make sure you have enough leather, because you can fold all this together and you can take it with you to the tannery. When you go to pick out your leather, they'll allow you to roll out the leather, and then you can put your pattern, your template in place to make sure that's enough leather to cover your project. Another thing, when you're gonna sell your projects, always ×2 whatever it costs you for the side of leather, and then your hourly, however long it took you to make that project. So I typically do anywhere from $15 to $20 an hour per project. And some of them that I make several times, I can do them a lot quicker because of repetition and so on and so forth. So eventually my prices can drop, and I'm gonna offer some other things on my channel that I'm working on here in the future that also stand me apart from the other leather channels that they don't do, and some of the things that they do. And then I also have a few tips for you guys too, especially for novices. Show you some more leathers here. This is also an Italian. This I can make this bag out of. This is about 3 to 3.5 ounce leather, black Italian leather. I would love to make this bag with this leather, but I have a backpack that I got that someone ordered from me on Etsy that I'm going to utilize this for. And then this is by Granger. This is also a really perfect leather for this project. It's beautiful, smells good, smells great. And this will get you your 4 to 5 ounces throughout this entire side here. It's just a beautiful brown. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not, but it's gorgeous. I could also make it out of this. This is thick and heavy enough. But what I did choose, especially for the aesthetic look, was this gator. It's almost like a reddish brown. Make sure the camera's picking that up. It's gorgeous. Now this is really thin. So if I take this, and this is where I'm talking about when it comes to picking a premium leather. I mean, this comes in at just 2 ounces, but because it's a premium leather and the thickness and how heavy duty this gator is, this, when it sits on its own, will support itself. And that's what I'm talking about as far as picking your leathers go. So let me go ahead and move forward from here and show you what I have thus far. Now with the piping, everything here is in millimeters. I'm gonna tell you what it is in inches. This is the copper piping that you need. I had them cut this down at Ace Hardware. And this runs up there in the, it gives the aesthetic look of the bag with a little bit of support up there where the handles go. And then you need 4 end caps. And so this is 3/8 as far as inches goes, as far as the radius of the pipe goes. And then the length is 20 inches, 20 3/16 is what you need. And this is so that it sticks out just enough so that the end caps could go on the end, and then you can glue them down with Loctite. And so this is what I have thus far. And so none of this is stitched together except for where the maker's mark is at. That's it. That's the only thing I have stitched together. Everything else is just being held in place by rivets, the buckles, the straps, the latch. Nothing here is secure yet, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna undo all these pieces here, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna lay it all out, and then I'm gonna take it apart so you can see how to put it all together. But so far, this is what I have. This is all the pieces, just to make sure that I have everything on the pattern that's gonna be worked out here. And so here are the two side panels. The gusset of this bag is the main body of the bag. And so all my pieces are here. So I'm gonna get this taken apart and I'll be right back. Alright guys, so I pretty much have this all laid out. You saw in the time lapse previous. So I have everything just attached here, sitting with the buckles and the rivets. Nothing is actually set, except for my maker's mark. This is the only thing I actually made permanent. I stitched it in place. The piping here sits in here perfectly and sticks out. It protrudes just enough so that when I'm ready to glue these on, which this is the last thing you're gonna do. I already know that. The last thing you're gonna do is glue these in place. Because what's gonna happen is, this pipe is gonna want to more like slide around just a little bit while I'm doing this. But I'm gonna stitch all this together. Just using a saddle stitch. And if I needed to, I want to be able to slide this back and forth. I could go ahead and glue it in place, but I'm not going to. The first thing I'm going to start off with here, guys, is the support. The two supports that go across the entire bag, body of the bag. I'm going to stitch all these into place. And I've already lined these up. Side with the maker's mark. You do not need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 holes punched out. Do not punch those holes out. Tape over or mark over with the X on your own pattern if you need to. This is the side where the maker's mark is located on the bag. There's not one on the other side. On the other side is where your towel or your blanket goes. The maker's mark side is the only side where you don't need to punch out these 8 holes. You can see here, like I said, I didn't set any of these. They're just running through so that I know where the position was for every part. Also make sure that you have enough rivets. But it's time to get started. I'm gonna keep these rivets in place when I do this. But I'm gonna remove the upper sections here so that I can do the stitching according to how I need to. Now the other thing that's happening here is this goes across the support straps here. And so I am not gonna stitch in the upper region up here yet. The only thing I'm gonna do is stitch the 2 lines going down the body of the bag all the way, and on this side too, I'm gonna stitch all of that with the saddle stitch. If you don't know what a saddle stitch is, look up a video where they teach you how to do that. Like I said, this project is not for novices. I need to get this done before the weekend. I have a booth that I have set up outside for more business to catch travelers and tourists. And then we also have the bike rally coming up here in Sturgis. And I need to have this bag ready for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and start my stitching with this. And I'm gonna remove the 2 top pieces here and go from there. So before I go to stitch my support straps here, I wanna actually run you through what I'm gonna do here. So like I said, this is gonna be, these copper piping is gonna be last. So set those to the side. I'm going to stitch this, the 2 straps here together. I am removing these upper portions. These are pretty easy to put on, the buckle straps with the loops. You have to make sure you put the loops in between the 2 set rivets. But I'll show you that as well. So I'm going to remove this upper half, work on those. Then I'm going to install these, and I'm going to do the stitching for just this upper section here on both sides. I'm not going to do the stitching for the piping, mainly because when I do the 2 side pieces here, I don't want the weight from the pipes making the bag heavy for me when I go to saddle stitch these into place. So, and then like I said, the last thing is going to be these, but I'm also going to show you where these straps go on at and how to put the buckle straps on, and then the handles as well. So yeah, there we go. Alright guys, so here we are. We are now at my workstation where I can usually throw on a movie or a TV show, series, something like that. This room has much better lighting for me. I have a source of natural light if I need it. I have my video light that also I can change to different colors and tones, and also have my overhead light. So I have different sources of light, and that's very important when it comes to stitching, setting rivets, and cutting and whatnot. The other room is just, it's more open space in there, and I have a larger table set up for filming and whatnot. But I tell myself that when I started this channel, I wanted to be able to offer lucrative tips, especially for novices, and things that I learned over the years that made it really important for every project that I did. And number one, the number one best friend you're ever gonna have are sharp blades and a good knife. So this is my cutting knife, where I can just replace the blades. When one side gets dull, I reverse it. I just want to let you guys know that the sharp blade is your best friend. The sooner you can swap it out once you notice that it's dull, the better you're going to be with your cuts and your projects, and you'll have fewer frustrations. But I wanted to point this out because I found this on Amazon, and I'll leave a link in the description. This is a Craftsman blade replacements, heavy duty utility blades. It's a 100-pack. I got this for $15 off Amazon, and it has been my lifesaver over the last 3 months. I still haven't run out of blades. I mean, getting there. I would say I probably have like another 30 blades in there maybe. But yeah, the moment I notice it's dull, I swap it out, flip it around. I mark the dull side with the Sharpie, with the black Sharpie, so that I know that I already used that side. You can usually tell just by looking at it. And then I just ditch it the moment that it's dull, and I swap it out with one of these. So number 2, you're supposed to make the length of your thread for your project 3 to 4 times the length of what you're stitching. So we're doing a saddle stitch, which is why you need so much thread. But the piping on this is so long, I'm gonna do mine in sections. So I'm probably gonna do half of this down to this rivet here, or between the 2 rivets, and I'll do that up to 3.5 times the length of that. And then I'll stop it there, cut it, burn it with the lighter, put this wax, and so it'll burn into place so it doesn't come undone. And then I'll continue with my second thread going down that one. Then I'll come back and I'll do the exact same thing here. Then I'll have to do it over here. So this could take me a little bit, a couple of hours. I'm not filming this. Like I said, it's just a simple saddle stitch, and you're not gonna stitch up here. You're only gonna stitch down, all right? You're gonna save anything up here and up here for later, and you do all that together, okay? So now that I've completed 2 of the lines on the first strap here, I am going to go ahead and set the 2 rivets that sit at the bottom of the case when you set it down on the ground. Always give mine a quick short tap, and then I go hard right after that. And then if you like, you flip it over, give it another knock after that. That's 2 rivets. I have all the stitches in place. And then next up here, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the ends where the copper piping is going to go into place. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. You're going to be stitching through 3 pieces of leather here. So you have the end piece that folds over. Rivets go only through the first 2 layers, but the threading goes through all 3 layers, all the way to the back side. So you're threading through all 3, and you're just doing this rectangular piece here. That's it. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and remove these. Like I said, I just had everything in place to make sure that I had enough of all the pieces, the right size rivets. You have small size when you have the end caps like these, medium size and you have large. And sometimes you need different levels of those rivets to fit through a certain amount of layers of the leather. This handle here, I'm going to show you guys how to do that on the other end here. I haven't set it in place, but I just don't want to take it out because it's not interfering. Well, actually, you know what? It is, because it comes all the way through on this end. So I am going to go ahead and remove this. I like to keep in my mistakes in the videos because it's, I don't know, more real. I mean, I'm human just like you guys. I'm doing this from scratch so that you guys can avoid the mistakes. And this is pretty simple, straightforward. After you cut these straps out, just run them through the outside, hold them together, run them all the way through to the other side, and then the rivet goes in here, and then comes through all the way through here as well. And I'll show you how I did that later. Like I said, right now I'm just going to focus on stitching all this together. I am going to have to remove these as well so I can get this side over here. Once I have that done, I can then put my rivets and stuff in place and then continue on the other side over here and do that as well. So, yeah, here we go. Alright guys, so just so you know, as I was starting to stitch the top rectangular portion of this end piece where the piping goes, I do realize I am going to have to go ahead and set some of these rivets that are going inside because they don't come all the way through. There's a couple of the straps that go around for the buckle on the other end. They only go through the inside 2 pieces. They don't go all the way through on the other side. And so I do have to go in here. I at least have to put them in place. I don't have to set them, but I at least have to place them. Because otherwise I won't be able to get back in there later. And I realized that as I was stitching this together. So I'm going to do that right now. While I still have access. Like I said, see, this doesn't go all the way through on the other end, so I wouldn't be able to get to that later on. I have other rivets here. These are just going to be decorative now because this is a portion of the leather that didn't need to be hole punched. It's a mistake on this pattern, and I will show you that later as well, so that you guys don't make that mistake when you're cutting and punching out the pattern. You can just mark it off on the pattern and not punch that out at all. Whereas on mine's gonna just be an aesthetic mistake, but you know, it'll still look good. So voila, I can still pull this back, work my stitching, then let it fold over later when I'm done. So I'm just gonna continue from here. I'll go ahead and keep the recording going for a little bit here. And then I'm gonna get back to watching my movie and finish this up. Now when I get to this point, I'm not going to pull the string up. Well, I am going to pull it up. Uniform myself. I apologize. To keep it uniform, I'm pulling it up towards me so that I can still run the stitch under. Then with this strap, now that I have this portion done, I can just run it inside here where the piping is going to go, just to get out of my way, to make my stitching, my saddle stitching, a little less frustrating, having it dangling right there in front of me. Here I am, I'm doing 1, 2, 3, make sure it's tight, the stitch is straight. The stitch will always be straight as long as you continue to go in the same direction. Start with the same area, whether the back side, the inside, the front side, whatever the case may be. Stay straight. Alright, and I'll see you here in a bit once I have this done and I set the rivets for the straps and get ready to apply the sides after I get both the ends done. Alright guys, so as I'm going through with the stitching here, I realized, number one, I had my aesthetic rivets that I had to set right away. These are holes that you guys won't need to punch. This is on the strap, the latching strap side. These two holes here and these two holes here, they only go through on this one side of this upper end piece. Those you can mark off your pattern. You do not have to punch holes for that. If you do, then you have to go in here and put fill-ins like decorative rivets like I did. 1, 2, 3, 4 of these go all the way through. So, not that. The straps, when you run these through, you're going to go through like this, and then a rivet gets placed on this end and goes all the way through. So that's all three panels that it goes through. Same thing with this one. You're gonna run it all three that way as well. And then you have one here and one here. They both go all the way through all three pieces as well. And these help to keep this stabilized and in place along with the stitching and whatnot. So these 4 screw rivets can be placed at any time. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you have to put in before the stitching. You don't have to set them, but you at least have to place them because you won't be able to get through on this other side here, the inside piece, to put those rivets inside. So that's what I'm doing now is I'm setting the 2 rivets that are gonna hold my blanket straps in place. And with the blanket straps, if you look at this, the 2 holes here are not in the middle, okay? They're not centered. So the hole up here that's closest to the 2 rivet holes is where you want to put the Sam Brown stud or button, whatever you want to call it. It goes here on the bottom side, and then this portion here folds over and then holds the blanket in place. And you're gonna have 2 of those. So these do have to be set because they only go through the middle layer and this front side layer. So I have to do that now. So there are those 2 rivets. I can now put I can put this in place, but I don't need to. I can set it over to the side and just grab the 2 caps so that the strap's not on my way as I'm stitching. I suggest you do the same. You can set it ahead of time and have this dangling in your way, but now that this is in place, I don't have to have this here. These caps aren't going to go anywhere, and I can finish my stitching going across. And I'm going to do the same thing down here too. Go ahead and set those now so I don't forget to do it later. Because a lot of times when I'm saddle stitching, I'll just be on a roll and watching my shows or a movie or whatever, and I'll overlook something. And then I have to go back and take my stitches out, fix it. I'm not perfect, neither are you. We're gonna make mistakes, but hey, we'll make them together. But a lot of these mistakes I am going through right now, so you don't have to. And this rivet here and then this rivet here, if I want to, I can go ahead and set both of these. Both of them go all the way through, but I don't have to. All right, back to stitching. All right, guys, just a real quick recap of what I just completed. I did the stitching for the end where the latches go. I am not going to do the stitching up here where the piping goes, not yet. I want to do the sides first, because when I do get around to doing this, I'm going to have the piping inside here. So that way, as I do each stitch, each saddle stitch as I run them through, I'm pulling tight to make sure I get the tightest fit possible. And then I won't Loctite the caps on until I finalize the stitching up here and I get all that completed. But once again, I won't even be doing this until I install both sides, which are these. So before I can do these, I'm going to go ahead and set all my rivets here so I don't have to worry about that later. So I'm going to put my the straps for the blanket or towel holder, set all those, and then set the ones for my straps as well. This next part, I'm going to go ahead and put the handle in place. And so with this you just run it from the outside all the way through to the inside, and this is where you place your rivet, and then run this one over here, and voila, same thing. It's that easy. So with these patterns that you choose, it's all about what you do with them. You make each pattern your own. I mean, it's going to be a rare event when someone chooses the exact same leather, the exact same color thread that you use, the exact same color rivets and aesthetics and stuff like that. So each one is going to be different. And you put your own twist into it. You put your personality and your character into each product, and people come to know your product, and they know your mark when they see it. So these are my last two as far as this end goes. And then I'll start working on these sides. I'm excited for this actually. Then once I have the sides on, or I say I'm working on the sides, but truly I have to finish doing this and then I'll be able to work the sides. So let me complete this up here, and then I'll get to the sides. But you're doing the exact same thing on that end that you did on this end, except for the fact that put this in place. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are going to be aesthetics for me because I punched those holes and I didn't need to. And this is on the side that the buckles actually go onto, and that's how you determine which holes you don't have to cut. But I will pull out my paper pattern and I'll mark them so that you know in advance. Because as you can see here, there's no holes, there's no punched holes on this leather, on this pattern, that does anything for these to connect it. They only connect for here, 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 and here, and then these two up here, and these two right here are only for these, for the buckles, and they don't go all the way through. They only go through the front and the middle. So yeah, I'm gonna complete this, and then I'm gonna get started on the sides. All right, guys. So this is my template, my pattern. And now that I know that certain holes don't need to be punched out, I'm gonna go on my pattern now and fill in those holes with tape so that I don't cut them out next time. Now if I line these up accordingly, they're both exactly the same. One says D and the other one says E. And so I have to just decide which one of these, since they are identical, which one I'm gonna make for the latch side with the blanket holders, and which one of these I'm going to use for the buckle side. It's the buckle side. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with the blanket side being the first, since that's the first one I did. I'm going to make that D, and then E comes after D, so I'm going to make that this one here. And so I know now that these 4 and these 4 don't need to be punched out. So on my pattern, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna tape off these 4 and these 4. So I'm gonna do that again. And then on the other side, these do need to be there. But on the other side here, there are several, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those need to be taped off. Well, I better make sure. Yeah, these are just aesthetics. So if I line that up accordingly, this is aesthetic, these 2, and then these 2 are aesthetic. And then these 4 go all the way through. These are actually ones that you actually use. So, like I said, I'm gonna tape off these 2. So don't punch out these 2 on the pattern or these 2 on the pattern. And that's on D1, 2, and 3. And then on E2 or E1, 2, and 3, do not punch out these 2 and these 2, these 2 and these 2, those 8. Like I said, I'm gonna take those off so I don't make that mistake again. And I'm gonna proceed with the other end. All right, guys, so my next step here are the buckles. And these are, take these apart so you can see. Pretty straightforward. You got your loop, gotta stitch together your loops. Just fold this over, run the buckles through. Loop, I'm setting sandwiched in between the fold. The buckle up. And then attach my caps like so. That's how they form, but I do have to take these out so that I can attach them to the weak in the bag. So these do not go all the way through all 3 layers. Like I said, remember these are just aesthetics. So I have to run these rivets through the body of the bag. And then this top side. Those. The buckle's gonna face out. So with the latching straps, you go into it when you gotta close the bag. Now with this, I am gonna go ahead and fully set my rivets, because the way this is set up, this is not going to get in the way of my stitching whatsoever. so I may as well go ahead and permanently set the buckles and the rivets in place. And then the other ones I can set are these supporting straps that go across the body of the bag. I can go ahead and set these rivets in as well, but I'm not going to because they go all the way through the bag. These are the main ones that go through the front, and the centerpiece, the other four go all the way through, so I can wait to do those. Another thing, when you're going to do punches or you're going to set rivets, always look at where you're going to connect to the leather. Don't look at the top of what you're about to hit. Don't look at the mallet. Wherever you're looking, your wrist is automatically going to go there as well. Good to go. Now I can start to stitch all this. Let it fold it over like this. So that's what I'm going to do next. And then when I come back, I'll go ahead and insert the straps and other rivets here and set all those. Alright guys, so before I get started with my side panels, I'm going to go ahead and put the other handle in place. I just put these rivets here. It's like placeholders. Keeping the punches aligned and whatnot. So I have those two, and then these two are already in place, so I can go ahead and punch these. Remember, these are the ones that go all the way through. Like I said, I mainly like to keep the rivets in place, just not set, because as I'm stitching, the leather will shift around and whatnot, and I didn't want to have to fight to get all three layers lined up later on. So you can see here, they're still lined up. So now with the handle, this is the inside. On the inside of the bag, that's where the inside of the strap should show. So as you run it through the slots, and then take your rivet, run one side through all the way. And then set that cap. It's a fold over, same thing on this side. now I'll set those. So everything now is all set in place. Only thing I have left to do on the end, on both ends, is to run the pipe in, glue down the end caps, and then run the stitching up here. So with the side panels, they'll go on here, and then when the bag is put together and set, it will fold in on itself on the side here. For that to happen, I would need to stitch the panels in place like this. You don't want to stitch them on the outside because that won't allow it to get that fold. You want to stitch it on the inside of the bag itself. So I'll start on this end and continue to stitch as I make my way all the way around. All right, really quick before I start stitching this together, one thing I wanted to point out after reviewing his photographs on his Etsy shop, you need to start the stitching up here. Not down here like I was assuming, but up here. And so I'm gonna undo the row of stitching here on this side, and then of course over here on this side as I get over there. Start to stitch it together this way. Not that big a deal. I mean, it's only 8 punches. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Just wanted you guys to know that. Like I said, I'll make the mistake so you don't have to. Now with this, I did count my punches on the side panel here, which was 142 punches, and also counted 142 starting from one end to the other, just to make sure that this was a starting point, not just going off the photos, but making sure that all the holes line at least the count was correct, so I don't have to go back and start over and do this again. I didn't want to stitch it lopsided and start at the wrong starting point and then have to start over. So that has happened to me before from patterns that were incorrectly put together by the pattern maker. So from trial and error, over hundreds of different products that I've made, I've learned to inspect the pattern workers, the pattern makers, PDFs. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue this all the way through. I will say a few things about the future of the channel. As I said earlier, I don't know if I'm gonna set up my subscription service so that people can receive discounts on the products that I make. Products that are on my Etsy shop and my website. And my website, of course, is then linked to my Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and so on. Any of the items that are on the website and on the Etsy. And I might eventually get around to doing a Amazon handmade. Not sure yet. But discounts for 20% off to my subscription base will be given out every single month. You'll have at least anywhere from 2 to 4. I'm not exactly sure how many I'm going to do right now. That you can use every single month on any product. And then for those who want to sign up annually, they'll be able to get 20% off, but also 4 times out of the year, there will be a 50% off discount being offered for any of the products. That's from something as small as a wallet to something as large as this bag or one of the larger backpacks that I make, and so on and so forth. But yeah, we're gonna go into a time lapse here. I'll see you on the other side. Here we go, on to the final stretch. So we got our Loctite super glue. If you don't know how to use this when you buy it, if you never used it before, you simply just, so this stays sealed. You don't have to pierce it with anything except for the cap itself. Just twist it on clockwise. Let's say that. It pierces it for you. And then when you twist the top cap off counterclockwise, you should have glue running to the top here. Now that's what you're going to use for to insert inside your caps here. that you attach onto your copper pipe. Voila, and that's after you run it through the bag itself. So the first thing we're gonna do is, just to recap, we've already stitched all this on the ends, upper portions here, all the way through. The only things we didn't stitch was underneath where the piping goes on both sides. Everything else is golden. If you need to, like if your cuts weren't all the way clean and whatnot, you can take something, sandpaper, fine sandpaper, you can sand it down to even it all out. If you want to edge coat it, you can do that as well. I like the color tone that goes with the beige stitching and the copper piping and whatnot in the interior of the bag on mine, so I'm gonna leave mine. I'm not gonna edge coat it. The only thing I did edge coat was the bottom side of my the gaiter on the straps. That's the only thing I did edge coat, because I like the feeling of that when you go to run the straps through the buckles and whatnot. So it's as simple as running the pipe through. Then apply your Loctite if you want now, or you can wait. You just put the caps on, you can do that last. All the way through. And I'm doing this, like I said earlier, so that I can get a secure, snug stitch with the pipe inside of it. I didn't want to stitch it first and then make it hard on myself to push the pipe through. And I want to be able to pull on my stitching, my saddle stitch, as I go all the way through with the pipe inside. And I'm actually not going to glue on my ends until the very end. I'm just going to wait. So yeah. The rest of my thread is started. Remember, with this, because the bag is standing up on its own, and a lot of this stuff won't be in my way, I am going to go ahead and do 4 times the length of my thread. 4 times the length of my stitch, I mean. So I go the length of the bag. Then I fold it over once. And then I take that entire length there and I just multiply that times 2. And since I know I need 2 of these exactly the same length, I'm going to go ahead and cut this. And do my second one ahead of time. And that's it, folks. At the very end of this, when I'm done with the stitching, I'll show you what mine all looks like. Cinch it all up together. And that's a complete project. That is the week in the bag. at the end. All right. So I'm just going to show you. I didn't show you this in the very beginning because I'm pretty much hoping that people that watch this video already know how to do a back stitch, but this is how you begin your stitch, but this is also how you end it with the burn. And so starting from the inside, like always, pull up, drag through. Like I said, I'm sorry that I'm just now showing you this in the video. And then go to the back side again, pull up, take that front one, run it underneath the back one, pull it through, and then take this one in the front and run it to the back one last time. So this is pretty much tripled up here. But what happens is this 1mm wax thread is now ran through here several different times to where that enclosure, those holes are sealed up now. So you can remove the needles, take your scissors, cut the thread down really low, keep my scraps. I can use those for like loops, and then help the ends. Just tab them in. Now I don't always do this like for areas in the middle. Sometimes I go ahead and I tie the knot and I cut it down low and then melt it. Me, I don't mind the little burnt knots and seeing those in film. It shows that it's handmade. It's not done by a machine. I like that aesthetic portion of it. Some people don't. So if they say that they don't want that when they place an order with me, I won't do that. But me, I like it. I like that feel and appeal of it. I already did this side with the end caps with the Loctite, so I'm just going to show you on this side. And this is why you also want to do the stitching with the pipe in place, because this is really tight right now. I can barely move it just enough if I need to. If I had to try to run this all the way through, I'm pretty sure I could. I might have to grease it down a little bit to run it through, but I'd rather just have it on there now. And so I fit the caps to see how much gap there is. This is where I want it. So now I just take my Loctite and I run it around the edge of the cap. It dries very quickly. I just placed it on there. Within less than 10 seconds, that thing will be pretty snug. Same thing with this. Cap on. See, this one already doesn't want to move. It's not going anywhere. Doesn't take very long. Seal up your glue. Everything is done. Yep. Now, when I sell mine, I'm gonna sell it with the blanket that I purchased. I picked this up at Ross for less. Now, this is a little big for the strap holders on this side here, but I can make it work. So there we go. There's my strap holder, my blanket holder right here, my straps. Here are my latches. This is on there nice and tight. This isn't going anywhere. Here are my buckles. So here's the bag complete. Put whatever I need in here. Actually, let's do that. is your weekender bag. Bam. Got your maker's mark, so if you need to put your stamp on right there or whatever. I'm leaving it blank so that if somebody wants to purchase this from me, then I can put their initials in there or whatever. I can even put something up in here if I needed to. But that is it. This is Premium Gator. I got to pick this up at Tandy Leather here locally in Rapid City, South Dakota. She is complete and ready for the weekend. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, this is Don Ray J. I appreciate you. Please subscribe and look for any future videos and posts from me, all right? Deuces.